is fear? Shall we start? What is fear? Fear is a natural thing that happens to the human body. It's made up from a place in the brain called the amygdala, which secretes or tells the brain to secrete chemicals. Well, a chemical cocktail, really. Adrenaline only being one of the chemicals into the system, and your body reacts accordingly. And everybody reacts the same way. It's just how we actually interpret the reaction. A lot of people look at fear as, I don't know, it's something that they're, oh, I'm scared, I must be a coward. Or they don't understand what's going on with them, and a lot of people don't realize that it's a natural response. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, but we've not learned, in the world that we live in now, we've not learned how to control it. It's people are getting the fight and flight reaction from stupid things. It's suddenly like they're at work and something goes wrong, and suddenly like their body goes into a fight or flight reaction. An argument with your wife, and suddenly your body goes into a fight or flight reaction. It's anxiety it's the new fear. A lot of fear, I think, is we think too much about fear. We try and analyze it. By analysing it, unfortunately, the subconscious brain takes over, and then it starts creating its own. Because the whole thing of fear is fear is something that happens that is unknown to us. And how Nietzsche said that the anticipation of death is worse than death itself, and that is very much the case with fear. It's like we're suddenly afraid of something, and then we blow it all out of proportion. It's like, we hear something, in a dark alley, and our mind starts to go. It's not really, somebody confronts us. At the end of the day, it's like somebody confronts you. The chances of a fight actually occurring is quite low. The more chances than not, fights don't actually happen. I mean, especially in sort of high octane situations that I was in, most of the time it was, we both sort of walked away with our pride intact, sort of thing. It's, the amount of times that it actually went nuclear, it's if you work out the amount of confrontations that I've had, I would say it's true. It's like, it doesn't happen that much.
We have a few different things already that you pointed out now just in the first few moments. The one thing is, surely there's a reason why martial arts teachers or practitioners care for fear in a different way from many other people, because it's part of the idea, the concept of conflict and fighting, which is at the core of martial arts. Yeah, the whole self-defense issue is an issue of fear and anger. But this is only one thing. The other thing is we are very physical, and indeed our whole society has a tendency to become less and less physical. More things are being pushed to the brain, have to be reasonable, have to be explained, have to be in worded. There are these sentences like you're supposed to defend yourself with words rather than physical conflict, and all these things, this focus on our brain makes us neglect our body and physical experiences. And fear is a very physical experience. So the moment you encounter something that scares you or stresses you, the moment you encounter this, something physical happens. And if you're not used to that physical response, and if you're not able or not aware of that your body does something to you, your brain gets unwired as well. This is a big problem. And the other thing is the matter that we apparently carry a lot of fears with us every day. Stress, anxiety, fear, depression becomes a very common occurrence. So there seems to be something that makes us more scared and more wary of things and more anxious and more stressed. And I'm sure there are reasons for it. Yeah? A way of translating the word fear, there is this false evidence appearing real. Yeah, so the anagram for fear would be false evidence appearing real. That is what you just described. Yeah? You go to an alleyway, it looks dangerous, it feels dangerous. Yeah, there is something just besides your level of view, and you see, whoa, this looks dangerous. Might have just been a rat, which doesn't do anything to you, but yeah, okay, I'm in Mancunian alleyways now. Yeah. So the point is that we, when we are already scared, we tend to interpret signals wrong.
Yes.
But there's the other way. There is the other thing that our body sometimes and our subconsciousness sometimes gives us signals. Because our subconscious mind and our senses collect information all the time. And sometimes our conscious mind doesn't even notice things that our subconsciousness already is aware of. And then we suddenly get physical symptoms of fear. And we push them aside and we're like, nonsense. Yeah? And it turns out after when you talk to victims of crime, they often say, oh, I felt it before.
Yeah,
I felt there's something going on, but I pushed it aside. I was like, that's nonsense. So we have a duality here. On the one hand, we seem to get scared about weird things at times based on false evidence appearing real for us. On the other hand, we are ignoring warning signals of our body and our subconscious mind, and run into issues. So apparently one bit about fear is to read the signals right and not get lost in the wrong conclusions.
I mean, and I think if you actually, I mean, we were taught a very, very basic way of handling fear, and it's all to do with the heartbeat. Depending on what level of, fight or flight reaction that you're actually in, your actual heart beats at a different rate. And certain things kick in, okay, at those heart rate differences. I've tried to actually remember the full terminology of it, but at 60 beats per minute, you're at normal operating speed. Yeah, that's the everyday, no problem at all.
That's a healthy one.
Yeah. At 90 beats, okay, from a fear-induced moment, bear in mind, these are all from fear-induced moments. From 90 beats a minute, you've got accelerated breath. Now, accelerated breath to us can mean nothing. But accelerated breath to somebody that is unfit, who is not used to exercise, not used to being out of breath, just like you've talked about your physiotherapist friend, the guy that had never felt pain before, and then suddenly the next day he was in so much pain it was ridiculous and he thought he was dying. It's all down to how conditioned you are. Okay, so accelerated breath to us in the training that we do won't mean that much, but to somebody who sits on their ass all day in an office and doesn't do anything, accelerated breath is the end of the world. All right, so it's all down to where your actual levels are. Another one which is sort of at 90 beats per minute, your actual fine motor skills go. For example, threading a needle, flipping a coin, your fine motor skills, things that you would normally be able to do no problem at all, are suddenly just gone. Your frontal brain, okay, as blood is being drawn from it at this point, because your actual blood pressure, okay, your heart is beating more, right? So the problem with that is when you actually have when your blood is sucked away from your frontal cortex, you get a euphorica, and your mind starts to wander. And this is where, especially in a fearful situation, you start imagining things. All right, so it's layering on top of itself. So suddenly you've got frightened, you beat at 90 beats a minute, you're breathless, okay, and then your brain's going, oh, what's going on, okay, and suddenly it's compacting on top of each other, all right, and that's where you can actually increase your heartbeat. Your own brain can do it by frightening yourself when there's nothing even there, right? At 125 beats a minute, your complex motor skills start to deteriorate. This is, for example, like catching a ball, okay, aiming at pinpoint accurate strike, nerve points, stuff like this. Your bowels, your digestive system starts to shut down. Most people will have felt this when they've gone on a roller coaster, right? As they're going, whoa! Yeah, and you know, that's basically your body going, look, I'm not being funny, but there's some bad stuff going on here. We don't need the stomach to digest that food. Let's just send all the blood somewhere else. Okay. You know, there's your saliva glands, which is the most hilarious thing ever. Your saliva glands stop working, so you get something the Americans call cotton mouth, where your mouth is dry. Which is really bad, especially you're in a situation in security, when you know, you want to shout at somebody, you know, to get back and what have you. So like, you know, get back, you know, and it comes out as get back. Right, okay, because your larynx have suddenly shrunk. You know, you really don't sound that threatening. I don't know why, but anyway, that's one of them. Your face flushes. Okay, that's the blood coming out of your actual frontal cortex and going into your cheeks, and you turn white across the rest of your body, which basically tells an attacker that you're scared. He doesn't realise that you're actually going into an actual fight or flight reaction. You know, that's all the way from sort of 60 beats all the way through to 140 beats. Anything over 140 beats, and things start going wrong with your body. You know, there's heart palpitations, there's tunnel vision, red mist, where your blood pressure has gone so high you're starting to see the blood pumping in your eyes, so you start seeing a mist effect in peripheral vision. Your peripheral vision suddenly disappears. Okay, you become a predator, seeing only straight in front of you. You know, we were always sort of trained to keep it around about 125 to 140 beats. Anything over that, and you're getting into what we used to call tier 1 operators, which are people, very, very special people that can operate very well between 140 and 175 beats a minute. And these are very rare, very, very special people. And I don't think, you know, we'll ever come across them. Put it like that. It's like they're you know, 140 beats, you're operational. Anything over that, things start to go drastically wrong. Your cognitive, you know, problem solving skills deteriorate. Your you know, your bowels open. You want to puke up. You know, this is not a good look in the middle of a fight. Let's just say that it's not the best of you know, you're puking your guts up and you just piss yourself. It's not really going to instill sort of fear into your opponent. So yeah, it only gets worse from that point onwards, really.
There are, of course, very good reasons why it is that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to see that we are, as you like to say in the self-defense classes, that we are still predators. Yeah? humans are still mammals, and the whole way we are built, we are not just herbivores, we are omnivores. So we are built to be predators, but we are also built to escape dangerous situations. And if your dangerous situations and your fight situations are very, very simple, you don't need a high amount of cognitive ability. What you need in a situation, if you are somewhere in caveman times, yeah, on a plane, and the tiger comes around the next corner, I don't particularly think there are tigers in planes. But now imagine, yeah, you have a predator stalking you, and all you need is to either run or to fight, and you have to run as fast as you can, or you have to fight tooth and nails. And the last thing you need is the ability to solve difficult mathematical equations in that situation. So, in fact, our body shuts down all unnecessary tools, all unnecessary functions. So the moment we end up in a situation of massive fear or massive anger, which is basically the same emotion and also has the same physiological background, it's the same hormones that trigger fear or anger. Yeah. So the switch from fear into anger and vice versa can be very fast and very sudden and very irritating. But that aside, all the physical reactions in our body are bound to do fight or flight or freeze, because there are situations in physical conflict where freezing can save your life. Because, for example, a predator doesn't see you when you don't move. Yeah. So our body does this for good reasons. It brings it creates a warm up situation. Our body warms up. Our body gets more flexible, stronger, more focused. Our mind gets more focused. We are having a highly dedicated approach there. That's not bad. Mm-hmm. It's just bad in the complex situations of modern society. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If we go into an interview, a job interview, and we end up in a fight or flight situation, or an exam in school or in university, or a conflict on the street, whoa, that was a cat passing by. A conflict or as a security person or a police officer, all these situations are so complex that these basic physical reactions are not helpful. There is even one more level. There are documentaries, nature documentaries, where you can see a zebra being eaten by a lion. The lion didn't do a good job killing the zebra, so it wakes up while it's being chewed on, and the zebra starts eating grass. So while being mauled and being eaten, it starts eating grass. This is a reaction that shows that the brain of that zebra is completely off. Mm-hmm. So this moment north of 140 beats per minute, where our mind and our body shut down. That's quite merciful. Mm-hmm. If you fall down with a plane, or you are trapped in a car after a car accident and have no chance to survive, the merciful thought is that we probably won't notice, because our body goes into a complete shutdown. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's this.
Talking about, like, you lose the ability to feel pain, which is very, very common, I hear, in car accidents. It's from a blunt force. They don't feel the pain initially. It can take days for it to actually, come back. Also, obviously, not bleeding. That's for surface wounds I'm talking about. Obviously, for deep wounds or trunk.
Wounds. Yeah. Main artery will not stop bleeding. It's all the things, as you said in the knife awareness classes. Yeah. A cut to the forearm or something might not bleed as strong while you are in fight or flight mode. There's a story of Winston Churchill. I mean, we are in England, yeah, that apparently was on a plane crash.
Mhm.
And he was asked afterwards what he thought in the moments that he was staring into death's eye and had the feeling he might not survive it. And he said, well, yeah, it was an interesting experience. He was sitting there and the plane was going straight down. And he was sitting there with the feet on the back seat, on the back of the seat of the person sitting in front of him. And the whole way down, he thought, well, and nothing else, which is pretty good for a brilliant mind, yeah? So what we learn is that there is some good in the fact that we might end up out of our mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah? The last moments of your life in horrible situations, or when you are terribly injured and wait for the emergency ambulance, or on the way to the operating theater, you might be less scared and less suffering than it would be. That it would be validated. Yeah.
Well, I do feel that sort of this talk is more towards the let's actually keep operational, okay? during this time of fear, let's not just curl up into a little ball and go, well, I'm going to die anyway, so let's just go for it. And I won't feel any pain.
Yeah, to the essential. The essential question is, of course, how do I stay operational and how do I cope with fear? All the things you just described, and I would like to add this, because this has to do with when we say in our martial arts modern applications. Mm-hmm. We don't only mean fighting in a back alley in Manchester. What we mean is the everyday application of our martial arts. And one of those things is very, very important: the dealing with fear on or anger on an everyday level. All the symptoms you just described, yeah, all the stuff that goes on in our body when adrenaline and other stress hormones are set free, all these things, they cause physical reactions. Yeah? They cause a higher heartbeat, a higher body temperature, we start sweating, yeah, higher muscle tension, we start shivering, or we feel tight, yeah. They cause faster breathing. They cause bowel issues, yeah. They cause. I'm pretty sure I forgot about some of the symptoms now, but the important bit is these symptoms are, on the other hand, warning signals for us that tell us something is wrong. If you feel this in your body, something is wrong. So it's a warn signal. And if you have it constantly, if this is there are fight and flight situations, extreme situations, conflict situations where you feel this very strongly, but there are also many situations where you have a 75% conflict. The trouble with the bully at work, the anger on the motorway, the trouble at home with the domestic issues, whatever happens, neighbors that are playing up, a government that doesn't act to your liking, whatever. So there is a 75% stress, and our modern society tends to create this kind of stress. So a lot of people run around with massive adrenaline levels in their blood. Not enough to really have an extreme reaction, but just enough to cause all these little symptoms. And if you look at that, bowel issues, yeah, an irritable bowel syndrome, yeah, is a very typical common issue now. Civilization sickness, yeah, bowel cancer, stomach cancer, yeah, very common for people who are under constant stress. You have all kinds of asthma, breathing issues, yeah. You have issues with the heart rhythm. You have high blood pressure. You have tense muscles. People, I've been tense here and tense there. All these are symptoms of constant stress. And stress is not when you have a lot of work to do. Stress is when you have the feeling that things are out of your hand, that you either are afraid to fail or you are angry because you feel exploited. You feel out of touch. So when we talk about fear, and also about false evidence appearing real, we are not talking about only the conflict, the highly explosive situation where we have fight, flight, freeze, where we have to survive somehow and come out of it and we might die. We also talk about everyday situations where the stress level never goes low enough that I get rid of this and then I get sick on the long term. So it's not only short-term symptoms that I have to cope with to stay active and that I have to read as a signal so I'm not getting in bad situations. It's also civilization sicknesses that are with us all our life. And this is so important because adrenaline and many other stress hormones and things that are used by our body are usually going down faster when you move. So after a stressful situation, sitting down is not enough. You will need something to get rid of these hormones, of this high stress level, to reduce your blood pressure, to slow down your heartbeat, to correct your breath, because otherwise you get sick on the long term. So fear is an issue for the moment, but also on the long term, and we should not forget that. You know, we have to assume that some people might listen to this who have no idea who we actually are. So when you are talking about your fear experiences, why on earth did you get in fearful situations in your life? Can I assume you didn't have a 9-to-5 job?
Yes. Well, I've had 9-to-5 jobs. You know, I've operated.
They were stressful and annoying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't go for 75. I just went for the 125. It's like, you know, if you're going to do it, just do it properly. You know, that's what I always say. Let's see. I've worked the doors in Manchester. I've worked the doors in Bolton.
What is worse?
Bolton was worse. Yeah, I tell you. I was in the armed forces. I worked private security. I've worked for government security all over the world. I've been in some hairy situations. Some of them in this country. Once did relief management at Talbot Square Yates's in Blackpool, and we actually had to have police horses in the pub to clear that out on Scotch Week. That was a highlight. Honestly, give me Afghanistan any day of the week. You know, the Taliban versus Scots, you know, drunk Scottish people in Blackpool. I'll take the Taliban any day of the week, honestly. So yeah, I've been in some pretty hairy situations, and I've been trained by people to handle stress, which was a problem for me. Hence me being trained to handle it. You know, if I could handle it no problem, they wouldn't have put me in training. You know, they would have probably just joined. Hello, kitty. Wow, that's passive aggressive if I've ever seen it. Oh, your wife's been training that. So yeah.
This is you forgot the most important bit.
What's that?
Now you're one of our most senior missing link instructors, and of course, that makes you an expert on everything that has to do with martial arts.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it's very, very stressful. You know, trying to keep you calm. That's got to be like one of the hardest stress jobs I think I've ever had.
Trust me, I'll keep this in. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, so just my background is a bit less adventurous. Yeah, I have worked a lot in violence prevention as a martial arts teacher, and I've worked a lot in communication and all kinds of training of body and mind. Yeah, spent many years with the German police, was lucky enough to work in violence prevention concepts there, which was very exciting. And martial arts has been my passion for many, many years. And here, the most important bit, or the most important part of martial arts for myself was always the holistic approach, looking at not just at the technique or the competition or the combat or whatever, but having a look what martial arts actually does for modern people in our modern life. And I came across so many situations in which fear and anger and an inability to cope with conflict became massive issues. The worst thing is that I noticed that our modern society has a way of hiding away things that could be inconvenient. So instead of fighting things out, we are using fake methods of mediation. We are trying to brush conflicts over very often rather than going through them. We had in the beginning, when I was still in Germany and I worked a lot with violence prevention and conflict management, in the beginning, it was really about conflict. Later, we had requests from companies, for example, where people said, oh, we have massive conflicts. And when you looked at it, you noticed it was just disagreements. People had a difference in opinion and no idea how to handle it. They simply couldn't get across the emotional stress of having someone disagreeing with them. So this is a sign of modern times. And I fear that the whole online movement that we have, as great as I like it, I'm a nerd, I love all the technology. I fear that using a lot of this technology and moving a lot of our communication to online services where eyes and ears are our main senses used, that we reduce physical experiences even more, and that will make it much more difficult for modern people to handle stress, to handle things, also physical things like pain or exhaustion or unhappiness. Yeah. So there seems to be a big need to train to cope with these things.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. So we had a lot of small things now. We came from a lot of different sides. One thing that we have now was that we noticed that fear is something very physical, and that even stress and maybe even depression and things like this, that they are actually having a physical background. So our body, neglecting our body will not help us to get over these things. But what can we do in our body to cope with fear, cope with stress? What are options to react? The moment that we notice shit will hit the fan and we need to kind of remain in the south of the 140 heart rate, what can we do?
The main one is your breathing. It's your breathing. It's putting yourself into situations that mirror the symptoms that you're going through. Obviously, I don't expect you to wander outside and start a fight, and when the police turn up, so well, my instructor told me to do it, because it'll help me with my fear complex. No, we don't. We're not. If you want to do that, you can do. But we're not telling you to do that.
A lot of the hard men I encountered in my life came from exactly that place. Mm-hmm. They were fearful. They were scared. They had a history of victimization, and they said no longer and turned it to the other direction. It's not the only reason to become a prime martial artist or a successful boxer or a criminal mastermind. It's not the only reason, but it's definitely one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean the doing things. I've always done things that scare me. If something scared me, I did it. All right, because it scared me. That's just the way that I'm made up. You know, standing in front of people talking scared the living daylights out of me. So I just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it, and now I just don't care. Unfortunately, after some of the comments that came out in the actual knife defense, I really don't care anymore. So it's like, you know, that's something that scared me. Being able to walk up to strangers, you know, that scared me. You know, being confident. You know, it's been brought up so many times. You know, because that's probably the first time that's a man will feel fear. You know, where, like, you know, his best mate turns around to him and says, you know, go and chat that girl up. Oh, I don't want to. You know, it's like, it's fear. It's fear. You know, it's the, you know, the fight or flight kicks in, and like you start sweating, and you know, your hands are shaking as you're walking over, and you know, I don't know what you expect her to actually do to you, you know, when you actually say hello to her. But you know, all these things go on in your mind. So that's going back to the basics of learning to control fear. Learning to control anger, as you say, is another one. You know, everybody always says, like, you know, just go count to 10. Count to 10. You know, that'll work. Well, the same thing works with fear. You know, problem is though, if you count to 10, you've usually been hit. You know, like, 10's a bit too long, to be honest with you.
Depends on the situation, of course, and I know quite a few people, if they bloody counted to 10 or acting, it's minor, but yeah, there is something. There is something to this idea of counting to 10.
Mm-hmm.
The idea there is to reactivate your brain.
Yeah.
I mean, we already noticed, or we already mentioned, the moment that adrenaline takes over, the moment that you are getting very agitated, your brain function reduces.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this is not, actually, that's not accurate. Parts of your brain get very, very active, but it's not the frontal lobe.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
There is a good reason to do something like counting to 10, or creating little mantras, things that you can fall back on, or touching a certain part of your body, or having a certain finger movement that oh, that looks weird. Having a certain finger screen is fantastic. Anyway, having a certain finger movement or something. When you talk with people who worked in all kinds of special forces or task teams or whatever, they very often got tools, mental tools, to their disposal. So, for example, the friend who always told me that he is still checking all his equipment. So whenever shit hits the fan, he starts checking key, wallet, knife, baton, whatever. Yeah. So he goes through things which calms him down because it activates his mind. So yes, there's something speaking to it, that getting in a sticky situation, you better have a little mantra, a little task that keeps your mind active. You can do that from the outside. You can activate someone's brain by asking them a question. This is the question technique is a fantastic way of reactivating brain. It can be a totally stupid question. Can be so what are you eating tonight, or who is that fellow, or sorry, when is the next bus running? Any question that can't be simply answered with yes or no will tick or activate brain. Not always. There might be situations when somebody is already punching you and you ask them for the next bus that will not reach his frontal lobe. But there are many, many situations in which a question can de-escalate things. And you can ask yourself questions. You can look around for things that are, Anyway, in general, activating the brain with a mantra, with a question, can be a solution.
there's also, depending on which parts of, or which symptoms you're coming down with,
Yeah.
Depends on which mantra that you actually use. For example, freeze, which was one of my particular ones. You know, when a situation's kicked off, it's like making that first move. Coming out of the shock phase and actually reacting. Now that one, which sounds so corny to actually say it out loud, but I mean that one was the Rocky theme track for me. It's like dun, 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 dun. And it always sends me. It always sends me. The first two beats of it, dun, 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 that's it. I'm gone. I'm out. I'm awake again. I'm no longer frozen. But then you've got the ones where it's sort of it's kicked off, but you're not quite involved yet. But you need to get your actual, the beats down. You need to get your beats down. You need to start thinking. You need to get the brain into gear. All this is going on that I'm saying in my subconscious, right? But to calm my subconscious down, I start reciting Tennyson. Sir Alfred Lord Tennyson. You've not heard? Okay. I clasp the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. Yeah, you start.
It's quoted it a lot of times in our WhatsApp chats. No, it's not wondering.
Yeah. Well, this is that's the thing. But when it really kicked off, I mean, when it's gone absolutely nuclear. Okay, I'll go the whole other route, and that's when my brain is virtually in shock, but it's gone the other way. I'm at like 140, 150 beats. So I'm at over 150 beats. Bullets are coming in, explosions are going off, whatever. Okay, that's when you really need to do the whole check thing. Okay, now I don't do the check thing, I never have, because I tried it. Okay, I was taught that one, but I always forgot something, which sent me into a panic. So I'm checking my gear, and then I can't find my knife, which sends me into a worse panic.
But it makes perfect sense. What if you check and actually something is missing?
Well, I was a sloppy soldier, so unfortunately, I thought something was always missing from my kit.
We have that. We have that when we talk about weapons in self-defense classes, for example, for women, and we are being asked, what about weapons? What if I have a tear gas or something? Sorry, tear gas. Anyway, yeah. And one of the experiences we have been described by victims of crime is that they had the feeling, yes, now I grab for my defense weapon, and it was at home on the kitchen counter. Mm-hmm. And the moment this weapon that they had relied on isn't available, isn't there, the whole defense system broke down. Mm-hmm. Because this one block in the whole system that they had for themselves failed. Yeah. And they were unable to respond because that one thing was missing. So there is an actual risk of the whole idea of a check.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, oh wow.
Yeah. So it's So I mean, like I used to go to sort of the really long poem, which was like Rudyard Kipling's. That used to. But trust me, if I'd finished the actual whole poem and I was still like, going, I wasn't going to survive anyway. So it was going to be. It was one of those though. It's like, I never ever finished the whole poem. So it was like, so that was good.
When you recite these poems now?
Pardon? What?
When you recite these poems now?
Now it has the same. Yeah, no. If I recite the poems now, it does the same effect. It calms me down.
Oh, cool.
It calms me down. Yeah, it's something that you always have a go at me for wearing my watch while I'm training. Okay,
but I don't.
No, it's usually anti, but I thought I'd blame you. But yeah, that measures my actual heartbeat, so it's something that I'm always constantly monitoring. If I'm getting too hyper, I'll calm it down, and I'll just be looking at my watch, but I'll be reciting it in my head. Because it is with me, it definitely triggers. you know, you do something. It's like the touching of the fingers, the flexing of the hand. You know, these are all things that calm me down, that get my brain working. It's all things because it's the first. Yeah, it's the first thing that switches off with me is my actual reasoning. With a lot of people, it's other things, but with me, my reasoning. Once my heartbeat goes up to a certain level, my reasoning sort of knocks off. So I've got to bring my reasoning back down again. Yeah, start doing the eyebrow thing.
I've worked with people who used breathing patterns.
Yes. Yeah.
I worked with people who used breathing patterns for their as a mantra. Mm-hmm. So they would have different breathing patterns for different situations, for calming down, for speeding up, and it went so far that they had certain movement patterns connected to their breathing. So they would have a punch, knock, whatever, connected to or something, which helped them to stay active under high pressure. Found that quite impressive and quite useful. But it sounded useful. I never made it to apply it myself. This is another thing. Everybody needs to find their own methods. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What I like to do is that it addressed the breathing. Mm-hmm. Because that is indeed one of the most easy to address symptoms. Mm-hmm. Breathing. Yeah? It is under our control. It's something that we do involuntary, and we don't have to control it, but we can. Mm-hmm. And this makes it so good to get back into control in a situation where you feel that you lose it. Your breath can be addressed. The breathing center in the brain is also right next to the center that controls the heartbeat. So breathing out actually reduces your heartbeat. Mm-hmm. Sorry, your heart rate. Yeah.
Yes.
And breathing in will raise it up. So if you want to calm down, nothing is better than.
Yeah, definitely.
And I keep telling people, while you breathe out, you also can't talk bullshit. In crisis situations, when somebody else makes pressure on you, when you are when you are pushed to the wall, yeah, literally or figuratively, you are being pushed to the wall. The moment you have this situation, you tend to talk bollocks. So breathing out can help. By the way, one of the reasons why smoking can be very relaxing under stress.
Yes,
it's a breathing exercise.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right.
Now, it has a lot of health issues, and it's horrible for the lungs and whatever, but it is definitely a breathing exercise. There are there were studies that show that people who smoke, despite nicotine being a nerve poison that should make you more agitated and less relaxed, people who smoke have at times better blood oxygen values and a more relaxed approach, mainly because they go out of their office job or work or whatever and have a breathing technique. I do that once an hour. Now, there is no reason why you need a cigarette for that. You could do it without the cigarette as well and would have the same benefits without all the poison. Yes. But breathing makes a huge change in your well-being. This is why Qigong is so based on breathing, why this is so important there. So breathing is one of the top methods to get away with stress, anxiety. Get away is always relative. The assumption that you have to get rid of these emotions to be functional is often wrong. You don't have to get rid of them. These emotions, fear, anger, stress, anxiety, they have a reason. Mm-hmm. And if you feel them, you should look into the reason. Yes, it's possible that it's just false evidence appearing real. Yes, it's possible that you trigger yourself into worries that you don't need to have. You still have to look at it, and you can work with them. If you work against them, you add fear of your fear to the mix.
Yes. Very, very
You're getting afraid to be feared. Mm-hmm. Yeah? When you feel getting scared, you get scared that the scare will make you less, and you just add to a perpetuum mobile there that gets worse and worse.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So it's super important to recognize fear, anger, stress as what it is, and to allow it to be, and not to try and, oh, I can't be, I have to think positive, I have to ignore this. That's bad.
You see, that's why I think the training that we actually do is very, very geared towards, the first few steps of actually handling fear. We'll take you through a warm-up. Okay, we'll get you out of breath. Okay, we'll get you sort of to the point that you're breathing heavily, you're flipping, your limbs feel heavy. This is all part of some of the reactions for fear, and then we'll move you into something where we start to make you think. We'll get you doing a flow routine. We'll get you doing a bunkai routine. A complex routine. Something like your hands aren't working properly, and it takes you a minute or so to.
Do you notice that you did not say kata, although kata is one of the best tools to cope with these kind of things?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay, yeah. But you're right. No. We are building up resilience in the method that you described. I would like to come back to that in a moment, to the matter of resilience and training yourself to cope with angst. With angst. Well, yeah, there we go. German words. To cope with anxiety, fear, stress. Yeah, there are methods, and you described them already. I just would like to underline that once more. But let's have a look at straight intervention techniques. We have now the mantra bit, yeah, mental tools to bring us down when we are getting out of hand. Breathing, very important. Breathe out, not breathe in, unless you feel tired. Then might make you more awake, yeah. But the idea when you are under stress or anger or whatever, breathing out more important than breathing in also, because if you try to breathe in and you already have oxygen in your or air in your chest, and you try to breathe in, you might have the feeling that you can't breathe.
Yes.
Because there's already something in there, and that can lead to hyperventilation. You end up and that creates more fear.
Yes.
So breathing out, super important. But you can interrupt any other of the symptoms that we named. You can, for example, interrupt the hypertension in your muscles. You can hold on to something. Yeah, like a lot of people in our surrounding have these
stress balls.
Yeah, something on their key ring that you can hold on to. Yeah. You have something soft that you can play with, or you do the Napoleon thing and have your hand in here, and or whatever. Everything that triggers touch and calms down the tension can help. You can also address heat, because the more fearful, the more angry you are, the hotter you get. It doesn't matter which of the symptoms you interrupt. Whatever works. Everybody can have their own method. Yeah, you can smell something. You can have something nice smelling in your perfume, whatever in your coat. Yeah, and smell it, or you can wipe your head. Whatever helps. Any symptom you interrupt will make things better. So we have the mantra, we have the breathing, we have the idea of addressing muscle tension by means of motor skill tasks or feeling. We have the heat interruption. Some people drink something. Go drink.
Well, that's engaging your saliva muscles. It's engaging your stomach muscles again. It's engaging your digestive system. So once these start coming back into it, everything starts calming down again.
That's the reason why people are frustration eaters. Yeah,
yes.
Anxious or stressed, they tend to overeat, or they stop eating.
Yes.
Yeah, they feel control because they control their eating. Or they overeat because that calms them down.
Yeah.
The idea that everything that is physical and gives you a physical experience will help you to cope better with stress and stuff. It's
the Americans used to. The American servicemen used to always take a knee. Yeah, you drop down to one knee, you take a drink, take a couple of sips of your water, put your water back away, make sure the catch is done up, okay, and then you're back up again. And it's amazing. I mean, it's probably about a 12 to 15 second thing that they're actually doing, because they're not actually drinking because they're thirsty. They're drinking because they're told to take a knee. And this sort of where they're checking that the actual things, back in, and they've tightened the water bottle, they've taken the drink. These are all things that they've reduced the height of their body. Okay, so suddenly blood pressure is more up in the brain. Okay, the brain is engaged again. They've got the tactile sort of comfort thing. I've taken the actual bottle out. They've got the swallowing effect, which re-engages the saliva, re-engages the stomach muscles, re-engages the bowel system, and then they've got the doing up. Yeah. It's a very, very simple thing. But you actually ask an American serviceman why they actually are being told to take the knee, and they were like, "Oh no." It's like they don't understand why they're doing it. Some of the actual things are quite clever that are done to calm people down. But yeah, that's a simple one. But yeah, don't start carrying water bottles with you and taking the knee in the middle of the Andale Centre because your wife's stressing you out. Just go home.
There is all this talk about positive thinking and getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that scare you. That's good. It gives you growth as long as it doesn't traumatize you.
Yes.
So there is again a thin line. My career as a professional swimmer ended when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I felt quite afraid of the 5-meter jump board.
Mm-hmm.
And the swimming teacher was, because it was the end of the lesson, he was in a rush. He wanted us to jump from that board, so he forced us to go up there, jump, don't be a wimp, go. And the 5-meter were too much. Mm-hmm. Climbing up there as a small boy, and standing up there. So I climbed down instead of jumped down, and this fear never left me. Mm-hmm. You can create fears by taking them head on.
Yes.
If you're afraid of dogs and you decide, I get rid of this fear, I just go to the next dog and pet him, and you get to a chain dog who bites your arm off, you have created traumatization. So the problem with taking things head on and to go out of your comfort zone is that you still have to engage your brain.
Yeah. It has to be done in a controlled way. Everything has to be done in a controlled way. I mean, the one which probably sort of hits me home was the first time I got in the ring. The first time that I actually got into a Muay Thai boxing ring, I was probably about 14, 15 years old. And it was scary. It was scary because I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. It was like, on Thursday, you're in the ring. And it's like, and I knew it was coming, and I didn't know, when or how it was turn out. And the fear factor, the walking there, the getting changed, the sitting in the dressing room, the going out, into the actual.
It all creates extra fears, doesn't it?
Of course it does. And your mind
it builds up slowly, and the waiting time is worse than the actual thing. Yeah. All your emotions can connect. You can have wildest fantasies, and it all gets better when it actually starts.
The moment that he hit me, everything was good.
That doesn't work for everybody. Don't make
it doesn't. It doesn't, honestly. I always said to you, it always takes 2 punches to wake me up, which is never a good thing. But yeah, no. The moment that he hit me, everything sort of kicked in, and literally, and it was great. It was like upping, But then, my next fight was the same. I was scared again, but a little bit less. And then the next fight, a little bit less. And then there was the whole point of doing a tournament fight, where there's all crowds of people, and you were thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, what happens if
the people had a second layer of horror and stress, indeed,
Yeah, and it's it is, but it was done in a controlled way. It was done in a controlled manner, which obviously any sports martial arts are, and so that was fine. That was an easy way of doing it.
So you can do things clever or not so clever. Looking at my jumping off a diving board. How do you call that in English?
Diving board.
Jumping off that board. If that teacher had taken just a little bit, or that instructor, or that whatever he was, if he just had taken a little bit more time, and we would have jumped first from the starting block, and then from the 1 meter, from the 3 meter, from the 5 meter, you could have gotten into it.
Yeah.
For some people, it works best if they climb up the 5, jump down, they're done. For other people, this creates trauma and does the opposite. So the approach to do things slowly is a good idea. If you want to get rid of your fear of dogs, start with a small one. Although that's risky because the smallest one. But let's put it in another way. Find a dog you can trust, and get used to this dog. And when your fear there has ebbed down, then you can go to the next one. And then after a while, if you meet a dog in the street, you will not go there. You will make a little round around it and will be fine. But in general, there's the risk that people do the opposite. People are afraid of something and they avoid it. And avoiding a scary thing makes your fear worse.
Yes, very, very much so.
I see that my mom, who used to be, she became afraid of driving on the motorway. German motorways, too fast. She really didn't like it. So she avoided going to the motorway with her car. That made her journeys longer and exhausting, but her subconscious learned, if I don't go to the motorway, nothing happens.
Yeah.
After a while, she didn't like the normal highways anymore, because they were a bit like too fast, and even worse than the motorway. Not all the traffic goes to one direction, but you meet someone, the other one has 100 kilometers, 60 miles, and you have 60 miles, and if that crashes to, oh my God, it gets worse. And so she didn't like the normal highways anymore. After a while, she stopped driving happily in town. So every time when she taught her subconsciousness that this is to be avoided and avoiding it is a success that keeps you safe, she reduced her ability to do things. Yeah. So that's a high risk. If you avoid danger and you teach yourself, that was successful, you will avoid more and more dangers, and your field of action becomes smaller and smaller. So you have to do the opposite. You have to search dangers that you can actually control, and where you can learn how to, this worked. And where damage, if it occurs, is survivable.
Yeah. I used to work out the percentages in situations, and which obviously engages the frontal brain, and you breathe in through your nose, and stuff like that, and you're thinking about the percentages and things like that. And the way that I used to work out percentages was way in my favor. It really was. It was like, afterwards you think to yourself, I really didn't have a 90% chance of coming out of that one alive. I really didn't. It was like, how stupid are you? But at the time, I convinced myself I had a 90% chance of coming out of this one alive, and I went for it. So it was, I was lying to myself, but it worked. It calmed me down.
Any situations of stress and fear will work out fine. The problem is that if they don't work out fine, the damage is massive. It's like driving in a car without a belt. It will go, or looking at my daughter, long car trips for her means being strapped in and not able to move because of safety reasons. When I was a kid, I was playing on the back seat. I was doing whatever I wanted. I could climb to the boot. I could play with my Lego or Playmobil or whatever I had. I could read books. I could sleep. I could do everything. I wasn't strapped in, and nothing ever happened. So the point is that very likely, even very fear in enforcing situations will not do anything bad to you. But if they do, the damage is massive. So there is a point to be made between being overly fearful and avoiding everything and being overly bold. Yeah. I know a lot of people who don't use a belt in the car and say nothing ever happened to me. I'm 85 now. I'm still driving without a belt. They were lucky. I know a lot of people who smoked their whole life, never got any illness. who now tell me, oh, I know this whole COVID-19 stuff. It's proven now smokers have a less high risk of contracting it. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, that's not good. Not a good message. Yeah. Can we somehow brush that under the carpet? No. Yeah. But you see, there are plenty of people who drink and smoke and do the weirdest things in their life and never get sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that if they get sick, it's massively worse. So the reasoning about fearful situations and about taking risk has to take that into account. There is a method that's called safety net. You look at a situation that scares you and you say, what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the best thing that could happen?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the most likely thing to happen? And then you ask a question, can I stand the best situation, the best outcome? Can I stand the likely outcome? And can I stand the worst outcome? And if you say the worst outcome, no, I can't stand. The situation might, the chance might be just 2%, but I really don't want to die in a car crash because I was too lazy to put a belt on. Then this safety net building in your brain can help.
So I had a friend of the family who was a teacher. She's a teacher actually over in Germany. And she had a situation where this child, through whatever reasons, was going to jump off the top of the building. And she actually went up and she was like, started scolding the child and saying, you know, if you make a mess, I'm going to make you clean it up. Remember when you cleaned this? Remember when you cleaned up that stuff in the laboratory, and you were sick everywhere? Well, this is going to be worse because you're going to make so much of a mess when you get down there. Honestly, you'll be cleaning up. You will still be here at the end of school hours. I'm telling you now. Yeah, and this engaged the child's mind. This brought back a memory of something that bad had happened. Very, very clever. So sometimes, sort of, yeah. It's you know, tricking the brain, you know, really does help sometimes, because if you really looked at the real percentages, you wouldn't get out of bed. You really wouldn't. It's you know,
life is in general really very dangerous.
Yes, oh. It is. But you know, also staying in bed's dangerous because you're going to die.
Oh yes.
So it's you know, you got to find that happy medium. You know, and a missing link, we're all about happy mediums.
Wow. So we had a nice talk. We talked about good stuff. Yeah, and I think we covered the whole situation quite okay. Now, when it comes to fear and anger and other emotions, of course, there's a lot of scientific knowledge. There's a lot of complex data to process. There is a lot of knowledge that you can have more in depth. When you talk about trauma, there's a reason why trauma therapists are really, really highly educated. So it's not quite that simple. But as always, when we talk about things being functional and being applicable in your everyday life, then they have to be straightforward. They have to be easy to understand, but even more easy to use, easy to apply. And from my experience, one of the tools that is constantly underestimated and not used enough is the body. And in martial arts, in every fighting art, but especially in the traditional ones that are holistic and not just caring for either competition or combat or whatever, yeah? In complex martial arts, there is a lot of knowledge, physical and mental knowledge, and a lot of tools that we can use.
I think in conclusion, what I'd like people to take away from this is, you know, they always say with anxiety, you're not alone. With depression, you're not alone. Mm. This is a natural thing. To feel scared is natural. To feel scared of feeling scared is stupidity. Okay, you know, learn what's happening to your body. You know, read books about it. You know, if it's something that interests you, read about it. You know, it's like I've got pages and pages and pages here of stuff that, you know, I could have said, you know, about the chemical compounds that, you know, affect this part of your body, what's happening to that part of your body. At the end of the day, what you're feeling, other people have felt before. Okay? It's not to make it a thing that to make light of, because it's not. It's something that we all have to find a way of dealing with. You know, some people find bad ways of dealing with it. Hopefully, through Missing Link, will help you to, you know, to handle it better. Okay, we'll show you ways of, you know, coping. You know, anger seems to be one where people don't understand, you know, how to cope. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's all down to your breathing, getting your mindset right. You know, I mean, you always laugh at me and you're saying that, you know, everything's half full, you know what I mean? Because I'm a positive person. But that's just the way that I've been in so many horrible situations that, you know, I have to find the positive in just about everything, you know, because otherwise I would have just shot myself years ago. You know, it's like, you know, literally it is
a very valuable thing.
Yeah.
It's a valuable thing to look at the positive, at the glass half full bit. Yeah, it's just not good if you fool yourself. If you have a hand around your neck, the positive thought, he doesn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
But look at what can I do and what are my options, instead of defeatism and I have no chance. That is positive thinking to me. Yeah, this idea of. But maybe a good sentence at the end of this. It's not really brave. You're not a brave person if you just don't fear. If you're not afraid of something, it's not brave to do it. It's only brave if you actually are bloody scared of something and you do it nevertheless. Yeah. My daughter the other day said, well, superhero isn't really a hero, are they? I mean, if you have superpowers and you just do it like this, how are you a hero?
Yeah.
You're not challenged.
That's why I want to be Batman.
Yeah, the best hero. Just skills over laser eyes. Anyway, bravery grows from fear, and coping with fear is something that we can learn and that we can get better at, and that's very valuable. I suggest we leave it at this now. I think we have talked 1.5 hours, which, if anyone makes it to this spot in our conversation, that's also bravery.
Yes, definitely. All right.